Hello, everybody, and welcome to our new podcast called the Unsolved and Unidentified podcast with your host, Nick. And
Jack.
yes, today we are going to be talking about the disappearance of a young lady who, for some reason, decided to up and leave her home to go cross country. Should we discover that, Jack?
I think we should.
Alrighty.
Just as soon as I discover how lighting works.
Nice. Alrighty, so the person we're going to be talking today is her name is Leah Toby Roberts, and she was born on July 23rd, 1976, uh, and she was the youngest of three siblings. And so basically throughout her life, her parents had problems as just around I think the age of 17, her father was diagnosed with like a chronic lung disease. And so uh, Leah decided to in 1995 she went to study at North Carolina University in Durham, North Carolina, to study Spanish and anthropology. And so during around this time in her college years, at around her sophomore year, her mother died of heart disease, and that greatly impacted Leah. And so, in around fall of 1998, Leah Roberts herself got into a fatal car or a near fatal car accident, in which she had to get a metal rod which was placed in near her femur, and so that was a life changing experience for her. And so, in around spring of 1999, she went on a school trip, and because she was going out of country, and it was going to be hard for her to access her bank account, she gave the power of attorney to her older sister, Kara. And so during that trip, her father died of the chronic lung disease, and because of both of her parents, passing, it caused her to question more about like what's like my purpose in life. And so in around or after her father died, which is around like 1999, she dropped out of college with almost completing her double majors in Spanish and anthropology. And so after her parents died, she started to like fill her life with like other stuff. Like she started to like gain some hobbies such as like photography and buying a guitar and getting herself a pet kitten named Bia, or B, how it's pronounced. And so she also started to hang out at local coffee shops in around Durham. And at these coffee shops, she would start to like write poetry about her life, and she started to like make friends in the process. And basically, the friends that she made with these people at like the coffee shop, they were talking about like purpose of life and stuff like that. And during this time, she would start to read novels by a novelist named Jack Kerouac, which he is known for books about like the purpose of life, especially after World War II, and how basically the politics and like how the world changed after World War II. And so he writes his novels after that. And so, Jack, do you want to take it to the disappearance?
Let's talk about the disappearance. So on March 9th of the year 2000, Leah spoke to her sister Kara about some plans for the future. And then later that day, she was talking to her roommate Nicole about doing some babysitting the next day, which would be March 10th. So sometime after that, Nicole left, and then Leah left in her 1993 white Jeep Cherokee. And then when Nicole came back later that day, Leah's Jeep was not in the driveway. And then the next day, when Nicole went outside, she noticed that Leah was still not home. And then she also didn't show up at the babysitting job that they discussed the day before. And then on, I think it was March 13th, that was when her sister Kara officially reported her as missing.
And so basically, for the start of the investigation, Nicole and Leah's sister started to like search Leah's room, and they noticed that in her room that there was like a lot of like her clothes were missing, so it meant that she was like starting to go on like, like a trip that would like require a lot of clothes, so she wouldn't be back anytime soon. Also, there was money found to support like the rent expenses for her roommate. And so while searching their room, they found a note from Leah. And the note itself is really interesting because it doesn't really tell where Leah is exactly going, but it kind of hints like why she left. There's an interesting line in the note that says, she's like, I'm not suicidal, I'm the opposite. And I thought that was like really interesting to note. And so also the pet kitten was also missing too, so and
Took the cat
because
with her.
yeah, they took the cat with her. And because Kara had attorney of power over Leah's bank account, she decided to check the transactions that she made. And the first transaction that was of interest was that on the 9th, when Leah left her, I think it was apartment in Durham, she paid for a motel with her like debit card near Memphis. And later transactions would like show that she was going along Interstate 40 until she met the western end in California and then merged on to I-5. And so the last interaction that she had that was shown on the bank account was her purchasing gas from a book or from Brooks, Oregon, which is right here. And that was the last known transaction on the bank account. And so basically with that, they didn't know like where to go with because that's where Leah's last transaction was at. So Kara and Leah's best friend Susie Smith decided to investigate or like check out the coffee shops that she would frequent. And while investigating one of these coffee shops, they come across one of Leah's coffee shop friends named I think Gianni Quiller, who had like a common interest with Leah about the author Jack Kerouac. And one of Jack Kerouac's books that kind of like resonated with Leah was the Dharma Bums, which is a sequel to On the Road. And essentially, the synopsis of the Dharma Bums is Jack Kerouac's experience in Desolation Peak, which is located, I think, in like the Cascades National Park, up near the Washington Canadian border, and like Kerouac himself talks about what it's like to live at this like outpost, and finding this like spiritual journey of like figuring out who he is. And so that's where they were like, they knew that she went to that, possibly went to that area. And Jack, do you want to talk about more about what happened in the Pacific Northwest with Leah?
Yeah, so let's talk about like what do they do with this information. So on March 18th, Kara thought that Leah might give her a call because it was her 26th birthday. And instead of getting a call, she actually received a note from the authorities telling her to call their counterparts in the Whatcom County's office in Bellingham, Washington. And so Kara did that. She called and she heard that Leah's vehicle was actually found and Leah was not in it. So earlier that morning, what happened was a couple joggers were jogging along Caney Creek Road off of the Mountain Baker Highway. That's Washington 542. And they discovered clothing near a curve in the road. So they're like, what's this? And some of the clothing was even like tied to trees and stuff. So then down the hill in this little embankment was Leah's Jeep. And it had clearly been crashed. It had all kinds of severe damages. The contents that were initially in the Jeep were found like all around the car, and they're just kind of everywhere. It was a mess. They found things like shoes, clothes, CDs, cat food, her checkbook, her guitar. And investigators determined that the car was going around 40 miles an hour when it drove off the slope. And the weird thing was is that there were no signs of robbery. As they actually found several $1,000s in the car.
They thought it
And
was a
then
motive.
yeah, since signs that the car might have been there were signs that the car might have been lived in, because like there were blankets up on the windows, like maybe to curtains to make it easier to sleep and for privacy. But there were no signs of injury, like no blood, no signs of a struggle, nothing like that, which is also kind of weird. And at first, there was even no evidence to suggest that there was a driver while the car had crashed. And then, so after a couple days, the authorities received a tip that Leah was spotted by a man and his wife at a gas station near Everett, Washington. And the man described Leah as looking disoriented and confused. But before they could get more information, the caller unfortunately hung up. And so Leah's siblings flew over to Bellingham to help the investigators. And one of them found a ticket to a movie theater located at the Bells Fair Mall at the time in one of Leah's possessions. The movie was American Beauty, and the ticket was purchased on March 13th. And that was the day that Leah was at the gas station in Brooks, Oregon. And they also found Leah's ring, which used to belong to her mom before she passed.
It was her mom's engagement ring, and that
Yeah, that's
it was really important to Leah because basically if like she took it off, like something must have like bad happened to Leah.
yeah. So so far, things are not looking very good. And so they did a little more investigating, and they discovered that Leah had stopped at a restaurant, also at the Bellas Fair Mall, and this led them to two guys who had a conversation with her. And the second guy that had last seen her described that a third was present. And so the third man has not been identified, but the second claimed that his name was Barry. So already, guy's name is Barry. We can't trust this guy.
Yeah.
And the second guy said that he saw Leah leaving the restaurant with this third guy. And the security footage that they had of Leah at the gas station down at Brooks was released, and it showed Leah appearing normal, although not so normal, like something was kind of off. Like she was kind of peering out the window into the gas station parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do we think that she was maybe looking at Barry or whoever could this have been a kidnapping? We don't know.
Yeah, she could have also maybe been looking at like her car because the time like that she got gas was like the middle of night, so still kind of a red flag for like people to like commit crimes and do that stuff.
Yeah. And then okay, so they got the security footage. So what happened after that? So they pulled her car out of the embankment over. This is over on the Baker Highway. They pulled her car out and had it towed to a police lot. And then years go by, and the case is eventually handed down to these two new detectives. And so they're poking around, they're looking at the car, and they find that underneath the hood of the car, that a wire had been cut, making the car accelerate on its own. So the evidence shows us that the car was like the crash, like that was intentional. That wasn't an accident.
Mm-hmm.
And the car hood also provided a fingerprint underneath it. And so they took they also found evidence of male DNA on one of Leah's clothes. And so so now they're suspicious of the second guy that they talked to. And so they went and they find him, and they take a DNA sample of him and get him fingerprinted to just see if it's a match. And also to play into their suspicions around this guy was he did have a background in the military and a record of him being a mechanic. But ultimately, the DNA and the fingerprint sample did not match this second man that they spoke to at the restaurant.
Mm-hmm. And so that's been the case essentially. So let's go over some theories onto like what might have happened to Leah Roberts. So the first theory is that Leah was picked up by like a motorist, like a passing motorist on Canyon Road, which in itself is like very isolated. You wouldn't have like many people, like that much traffic on the road. So maybe if she did meet a motorist, maybe this like motorist like picked her up and then took her to like another location and killed her. But like there's like no evidence of like Leah's remains found like around like the car. And also like to support this too, you could say is that like the evidence of like the wire been cut, to make it look staged, so that like maybe like the motorist that was gonna like pick Leah up, like that in itself like wasn't by chance. It was like premeditated, to where like he or whoever the perpetrator was cut the line which was like in like the engine. I don't know what the part was, but like it made like the car accelerate off the hill into the embankment to look like it was staged. But also, what could contradict this theory is that there's evidence that's been found in the car to suggest that it itself has been like lived in, you know to use like during the elements. So, and we don't know like how long that could have been, but it's I don't know if it's like possible for like uh that to be like set up to like, I guess, make it look like that Leah was like living in her car, to like throw off like the authorities into thinking that she like is like endangered, like missing, instead of like being kidnapped. The second theory was or also ties into like the third theory, or the first theory is she was actually kidnapped before the car crash. That explains why like the car crash itself, why there was no one in at the time to drive the car off the slope into the embankment. Um, and also this Barry individual, that could also explain like the kidnapper, maybe. I don't know, because um like this like individual himself like was never reported by like the first man who was speaking to Leah Roberts. And the third theory is that she could have like had amnesia. I mean, with that like phone call, apparently it was Leah, or a woman that like matched the description of Leah, who was disoriented. And also there was no signs of a struggle, so it like could be explained that like no one was in like the car to like crash it. And also the engagement ring that she had from her mother, like that was very important to her. Like she wouldn't go anywhere without that. And to find that her engagement ring was within the car but Leah was not present could suggest that she had amnesia herself. And the fourth theory is that like the her original intention of going to like she actually like carried out, and then this was like some like freak accident that happened. And it explains like why she went to like the Pacific Northwest, because she wanted to like find out who she was. And the Dharma Bums, the book itself, kind of resonated with her, so she wanted to emulate something like that. And also, if you look into like the area that her car disappeared, because technically Canyon Road is closely located to a community called Glacier. And if you know like about Glacier and like mountain towns, like there's not that many people, so like it kind of attracts like people that kind of like want to live off the grid, like not like find traces of anybody. So it could be possible that like Leah just like upped and like left, like staged the crash or something, maybe as like a reminder to like set aside like her past life. But that also doesn't explain why her car was like left in like such a disarray, uh and like other important items, because I feel like if she wanted to start a new life, and some important stuff she would like want to keep that would like remind her of her old self while putting on the new, like such as like the engagement ring. You'd probably also want to like also take your checkbook. I know that the kitten wasn't there, but also weirdly that like there was cat food, so maybe she purchased like more cat food, and she took her kitten and the cat food and then went somewhere, or was picked up by someone. So we don't really know what happened. And so, in conclusion, after like Leah's body, there's like after this year, like Leah's body or like presence that she was like, you know, in the area, like it's not been found. Even like near like the start of the search, they started like to search with like search dogs and metal detectors because of her metal rod in her femur. And even like after periodic like searches, because I remember reading about how like investigators would like try to frequently search like the area that Leah disappeared. Like they couldn't find like any trace of her, and even like the search dogs like lost the scent. And so if Leah is like alive right now, she would be 47 years old. When she disappeared, she was 5'6", weighing 130 pounds, had blue eyes with sandy hair, and her family and friends are offering a $10,000 reward for information pertaining to Leah's disappearance. So if you have any information pertaining to like Leah's disappearance, you should contact the Whatcom Sheriff's Office or the Whatcom Communication Dispatch Center, and the link of that will be in the description. And that has been the disappearance of Leah Roberts. Would you like to say anything more, Jack?
Yeah, so what do you guys think happened? Feel free to research the subject yourself. If it interests you, let us know in the comments. And just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and keep your eye out for some more down the road.
Alrighty, thanks for tuning in, and good night.